Hi everybody, Sarah B here. I had a request from my very dear sister-in-law Anna in Sydney yesterday asking for an all-round sequence but with an emphasis on the hips. I had a request from a friend in London, Joe, also asking for an all-round sequence but with an emphasis on upper body strength. So I'm going to put the two together by forming a class for you today that is going to be around Eka Pada Galavasana, which is flying pigeon pose, and Hanumanasana, which is monkey pose. I kind of don't really want to tell you, but it's the splits. We are not going to be doing the full versions of either of these poses. We're going to be following the patterns of those poses to create a really nice sequence. You're going to need a strap, and it doesn't have to be a fancy yoga strap. It can be any sort of lengthening device, a towel, a belt, and a towel. This a little sort of thicker and foldable so that we can put it underneath the upper back and to sit on it as well. So you need those, but you also need some wall space. So please do press pause if you're not near a wall and maneuver your laptop so that you can put your mat near a wall so that you can use the wall. You don't need a huge amount of space against the wall, just sort of about a meter's width. We're going to be using that at the beginning of our sequence. So let's begin our sequence. I want you please to come into downward facing dog with bent knees. So place your hands at the top of the mat. Put your hair in a ponytail if it's annoying you. Index fingers pointing forwards, your fingers more or less evenly separated. Pick your knees up and press your chest towards your thighs. Do keep your knees bent. Let your head hang like a mango from a tree and come to your breath and really come into breathing into the base, the bottom of your lungs, which are now sort of upside down. So breathe up in towards your pelvis. Let the sides, the front and the backs of your lungs really open and fill with your breath. And as you exhale, press every drop of breath out. And try and keep this deep, considered breath moving in a rhythmical fashion throughout the entire sequence. You'll forget sometimes. I'll remind you when I remember. But try and keep your breath even and strong so that you're nourishing and oxygenating, sending prana, sending energy to every tissue and cell in your body. Now straighten your legs. Press your heels down towards the floor. Make sure that your toes are really pointing forwards. And then come into child's pose. So bring your knees to the floor, big toes touch side by side. Keep looking at your hands as you walk them a little further away from you and bring your forehead to the floor or onto your folded towel or blanket. Again, come back to that breathing. Feel the weight of your pelvis resting on your heels, and if your bottom is slightly up, that's fine. But try and surrender into this pose. We'll be here for only about another 8 seconds or so. Keep breathing deeply, squeeze your arms straight and strong, press down through the base knuckle of every finger and your thumbs. Then come back into downward facing dog. Lift up, press back. Walk your feet forward, come to standing forward fold, Utkatasana, at the top of your mat. Don't make this the best Utkatasana of your life. We're going to be doing plenty of stretching the backs of the legs. Even put more of a bend in your knees than you normally do, and just let your head hang. Push your fingers into the floor so that you're not carrying all your upper body weight into your lower back. If you can, straighten your legs, do. But again, don't go for 100%. And as you push your fingers down into the floor, draw your shoulders up onto your back towards your tailbone. Now push down through your heels and bend your knees. Bring your hands to your hips, point your elbows towards the ceiling and hinge up to standing. Come all the way up. Okay, now the wall. So I'm going to do wall sit. This is a really good way to strengthen the legs before we do all those hip openings as promised. So bring your back to the wall. Don't worry if your mat isn't against the wall here. Just bringing your feet onto the wall is fine. You're going to do this for about a minute. I'm timing it. Normally in class I say I start timing when the last person is here, so I'm just going to have to trust that you're here. Don't run away. So sit with your back to the wall, your knees and your ankles are touching each other. And if you find that you're really struggling with this, then walk your back up the wall a little bit here so that you can keep the pose going for a minute, but maybe just not as intensely as if your knees were at a right angle. Arms, bring the backs of your hands to the wall. Look forwards and trust that I'm timing. You're halfway through. Squeeze your knees towards each other. This is a really good warm-up, right? Can you feel your thighs? It helps if you press your legs towards each other so that your inner thighs are also engaged. That helps to maintain the pose. You're nearly there. Keep breathing. Keep that breathing going. If you've got a bit more in the tank for the last 10 seconds, option to bring your arms up overhead, press your thumbs towards the floor, maybe actually towards the wall rather, maybe even on the wall. 3, 2, this is an option, just keep your hands down if you need to. 1, and then come out of the pose, well done. Press your hands to the wall, come all the way up. Now we're going to do chair pose, Utkatasana, again using the wall. So we're starting to open up the shoulders a bit here. So face the wall, so you probably can't see me, so listen carefully. Feet together, and make sure that your feet are a good ½ meter away from the wall. This pose is easier if your feet are further away. So if you're a beginner, really come about 3/4 meter away. And then bring your hands to the wall, straight arms. Then sit down like you just did into chair pose, but now your arms are being forced overhead as you sit. Press your tailbone down towards your heels, bring your navel in towards your spine, look at the wall, press your legs towards each other. Those of us with tight shoulders, this is a really good pose to do. Try not to crinkle up your face, keep your breathing. 3, 2, 1, now come all the way up and bring your hands down. And come into wall clock. So turn so that you have got the right side of your body closest to the wall. And bring your hand onto the wall, the palm onto the wall, flat, so that the so the middle finger is pointing straight back. And make sure that you have got that arm straight, so don't bring your feet too close to the wall or too far away. And then to stretch and open up the right upper chest, turn your chest away from the wall, but keep pressing your hand into the wall quite strongly, like you do when you're in downward facing dog with your hand flat on the floor, both hands flat on the floor. And perhaps turn your rib cage a little bit more away from the wall, but gently, so that you feel a nice stretch, not only in the upper chest, but you're probably feeling it down your arm as well. Your fingers should be pointing straight back, so your middle finger should be parallel to the floor and the ceiling. Now change sides. So just turn your body towards the wall again and bring your other hand. Check that the middle finger again is pointing straight back, it's parallel to the floor and the ceiling. Set yourself up, feet together, abdominals engaged, so bring your navel into your spine and then turn away. You might even be able to turn your feet away from the wall, your toes away from the wall as well. Try and relax that left shoulder and the right shoulder, both of them. Just let them weight down towards your heels. Don't press them down, just let them naturally release. And breathe into your left lung here. Breathe into the left shoulder, the left side of your chest. And then release wall clock. So turn your chest towards the wall. And then we're going to come back to the mat. So come to kneeling, a high kneeling position. So your femur bone is straight up and down. And come into Anahatasana. So this is puppy dog pose. I love this pose. Walk your hands forward so that your forearms and all your arms are in a sort of 45-degree angle. And then bring your forehead to the floor. But keep your bottom up as you press your tailbone down. So this is very similar to what you just did in chair pose with your hands to the wall, the second pose that we did at the wall. But this time, you're in a different relationship to in space, and gravity is now helping you to stretch a little bit more. It's less about strength and it's more about stretching. Keep pressing your tailbone down towards the backs of your knees, bring your navel to your spine. Then coming out of this pose, raise your head, walk your hands back, so your hands and knees, and come into twisted child's pose. So walk your right hand a little further away, and then pick up your left hand, turn the palm up towards the ceiling, and then thread your left arm under your right armpit, and bring the side of your head, the left side of your head, to the floor as you look to the right. Stretching the muscles of your back, bring your navel into your spine, and put a little effort into this. This is one of those poses where people can quite easily kind of check out and chill out. But keep reaching with your hand, press every fingernail down, and even with your right hand, push that hand down to help you get a bit of traction and twist a little more. Press your knees towards each other, and then come to the other side. So push your right hand down to help you bring yourself up. Left hand on the floor, and then right hand under, and again, the head on the floor. Don't keep your head up, rest your neck. Put your left hand into a place where you can push that hand down quite strongly. Reach long with the right hand, and turn your chest and your belly a little bit more towards the left side of the room. Press your knees towards each other. Keep that breath going. Breathing deeply isn't so easy when you're twisting, but nevertheless, try and keep your breathing steady and calm. And then come back to downward facing dog with nice straight legs. By the way, do bend your knees in down dog if you're really tight and you're quite new to yoga. And that will help you to keep your lower back bend. But if you can straighten your legs, do that. Press your heels down. Turn your head no, 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 and yes, a couple of times so you know your neck is loose and you're just letting your head hang. Now put a little bend in your knees and look forward and walk your feet forward to the top of the mat. Come to Ardha Uttanasana. So half Uttanasana is when you press your fingers down ahead of your toes, bent knees are fine, and you raise your chest up away from the floor and raise your chin and look up. So it kind of feels like you're doing a back bend in your lower back. Stay here for a couple more breaths. Heavy heels, push down through the base of every toe, and then fold forward again. Back to normal Uttanasana. Coming to standing, bend your knees, bring your hands to your hips, point your elbows to the ceiling, hinge up to standing, and then bring your hands into your heart. We're going to do 3 sun salutations with some variations for the hips, to open up the hips, coming towards that pattern of flying pigeon. So inhale, bring your arms up overhead, and as you exhale, fold to Uttanasana. Inhale, raise your chest back to Ardha Uttanasana, half lift. Exhale, go back into plank. So here's that upper body strengthening work happening. We're going to stay here for only 10 seconds, but that can be a long time. So feel free to bring your knees down to the floor if you need to. Press your feet down strongly and press your hands away from each other and back towards your feet so your shoulders engage. And you feel a lift in your belly. Now bring your knees to the floor. That was more than 10 seconds, wasn't it? Come all the way down and curl up into Cobra. Toenails on the floor. And again, press your hands back towards your feet. And you'll feel your pubic bone sort of edging forwards to the front of your mat. And that will also lift up your heart and your chin. So keep pressing your hands back. It's harder, but it's better. Squeeze your knees. And then go back to downward facing dog. So tuck your toes under, lift up and press back. Now, we're going to come into pigeon prep here. So bring your right knee behind your right wrist. Actually make contact knee to wrist. Bring your back knee down. Keep your back toes tucked under. And come onto your fingertips if that's possible. It makes the back bend bigger, but that's what I want you to do if you can. Otherwise, keep your hands flat and keep your chest a little closer to the floor. Whatever you're doing with your hands, press your knees towards each other so that you feel your glutes engage. Again, no checking out here. There's a lot of engagement and alignment going on. Now keep that engagement of pressing your front knee to the back of the mat and pressing your front knee forwards, and come down. And rest your forehead on your stacked fists. Keep the engagement. Again, don't check out. Keep your eyes open. Keep pressing your front knee to the back knee and the back knee forwards. Having said don't check out and keep strong and keep the engagement, if you find yourself fretting and getting too tense, make sure that your jaw is soft. The muscles around your eyes are also soft, and that you're breathing steadily. So you're choosing where to engage and where to hold and where to strengthen, but you're not letting that translate into stress and sort of upsetting. You're calm. You're calm and strong. You're engaged. You're focused. Okay, let's go back into downward facing dog. So raise your head, place your hands, pick up your entire right leg and step it back. And then come into pigeon prep on the left side. So make sure your left knee and your left wrist are touching. Back knee down. Keep the back toes tucked under so you have a feeling of moving forward and engagement. And again, option flat hands or fingertips. You will probably find that this hip feels either tighter or more open than the other hip. So you may need to adapt the pose to being more, perhaps, more lower or more intense. And then keep pressing that front knee back and the back knee forwards again, so that you slightly rise up and you feel you're squeezing your bottom. So that if you could do as I just did, you could take your hands off the floor and you probably wouldn't fall, or you would at least feel some stability. Now the forward fold. Change the stackage of your hands so the other wrist is on top. Rest your head, keep the engagement. Gently press your shoulders towards that back foot. Soften your jaw. Even move your jaw a little bit to the left and the right. And you can have your mouth slightly open. No one's watching. It's okay. Soften the muscles around your mouth, around your eyes, and come back to the breath. Cool, calm, thin inhalations and exhalations as you keep moving the front knee back and the back knee forwards. Couple more breaths. And then raise your head, come into downward facing dog again. Place your hands and step back. Now put a little bend in your knees and look forwards. Keep this. And then on your next exhalation, step your right foot, then your left foot, or just walk forward to the top of the mat. Ardha Uttanasana, raise your chest, really look up, look up, look up, and as you exhale, fold to Uttanasana. Now bend your knees, bring your arms ahead of you, come all the way up. Hands together, down into your heart, Anjali Mudra, and then bring your hands to your hips. Bring your feet together. Before we come into the next sun salutation, standing figure 4. Bend both of your knees, pick up your right leg, and then turn that knee out to the side as you rest the outside of your right shin onto the top of your left thigh. I'm going to move here, don't you move. This is what it looks like, standing figure 4. Now bring your navel into your spine, keep your chest raised, and press your right leg quite strongly into the shelf of your left thigh. Try not to move your left buttock out to the left, keep squeezing it in. And then separate every toe on your right foot, so you're getting a little bit of a toe stretch here as well. Now push your left foot down, raise your heart up, take the right leg away, and come into standing finger 4 on your left side. Bend both of your knees first. Pick up the left leg, and again, just the top of the ankle, the base of your shin is pressing into your right thigh quite strongly. And again, keep pressing your right buttock in towards your left knee so you're not hanging your right buttock out to the side. And then possibly bring your navel into your spine a bit more. Separate all the toes on your left foot, soften your shoulders, and then come all the way up. Good, separate your feet. Inhale, bring your arms all the way up. As you exhale, fold back to Uttanasana. Inhale, raise your chest, look up. As you exhale, walk back into plank pose. Now, same thing here. Push your feet down, so push your right toes down, push your left toes down more than you need to maintain plank. And then press your hands away from each other and back towards your feet. Bring your navel up to your spine, squeeze your legs. Now bring your knees down to the floor. Come all the way down. Try and land your pubic bone, thighs and belly at the same time. Curl up into Cobra. Squeeze your legs. Press your hands back towards your feet like you did before. That will help to broaden your collarbones, raise your heart. Again, you don't have to do a full high Cobra here. You can come halfway down. Work within your limits. Now go back to down facing dog. Tuck your toes under. Lift up, press back. Now bring your 2 feet together and raise your right leg behind you for 3-legged dog. Bring your knee towards your nose and round your back. Move your chest forward. And then step your right foot forward in between your hands. Keep this high lunge, keep the back leg straight, and bring your hands onto your hips. Press your front foot towards your back foot, and on your next inhalation, bring your arms up overhead for Anahatasana. So now you're in Crescent Warrior, the back heel is off the floor. Raise your heart towards your little fingers and your little fingers up a little bit more towards the ceiling. Then come back to down facing dog. Bring your feet together again. Raise the left leg, both legs straight. Bring your knee to your nose. And then step your foot in between your hands. Hands onto the hips first. If you find you're losing your balance, bring your left foot a little further over to the left. Squeeze the back leg strong. And then bring your arms up overhead again. If you're really tiring here, you can keep your hands down. Raise your heart, raise your chin. Bring your hands back a bit more than you did before. And then go into down facing dog. Put a little bend in your knees, look forward, step your left foot, then your right, or walk to the top of the mat. Raise your chest, look up. Exhale, fold back to Utkatasana. Bend your knees, bring your arms ahead of you, come all the way up. Bring your hands together and down to your heart. One more little flow. Inhale, bring your arms up. As you exhale, fold back to Utkatasana. Inhale, raise your chest, look up. Exhale, walk back into plank. Just one inhalation here in plank. You're welcome. Bring your knees down to the floor, come all the way down, curl up into Cobra, and then go back to down facing dog. Bring your feet together again. Inhale, raise your right leg behind you. As you exhale, step the foot straight in between your hands, so no knee to nose. Inhale, bring your arms all the way up to Crescent Warrior. Now we're going to do a twist. Bring your hands into the center of your heart. Inhale here. And as you twist, bring your left elbow onto your right thigh. Turn your chest to the right. Top elbow right above the bottom elbow. And squeeze your back leg straighter. There's a habit here that people often have of letting that back knee bend and letting the left hip drop. Imagine your entire left leg, your back leg is filled with helium. Now look down, touch down, go back to down dog. Bring your feet together, raise your left leg, and step your left foot in between your hands. Bring your hands all the way up straight away, so no hands on hips. Keep that back leg straight, bring your hands into your heart. Inhale here, and as you exhale, twist to the left. And again, buoyancy in the back leg. Bring your navel into your spine. Maybe move your back a little bit more. Move your back a little bit more away from the direction that you're twisting. So lean back a little bit. And then go back to down dog. So separate your hands, touch down, step back. Now, before we finish this sun salutation, I want to do something else. So please bring your knees down to the floor and step your right foot forward so that you're making lots of right angles here. And then move your back knee back a little bit more. Walk your hands back, stay on your fingertips, and then start to straighten your front leg. So you're coming into what we sometimes call runner's lunge. And if it's possible for you, you might be able to windscreen wipe that foot left, right, moving it slightly more away from you. We're doing that funny windscreen wipe because the sticky mat makes it quite difficult for your heel to easily slide forwards. And then like you did when you were in pigeon prep with your knee down on the floor behind your wrist, press that heel, that front heel, towards the back of the mat, like you're trying to carve out a trench, like you're going to plant some radishes and you're digging a trench with that heel. But the sticky mat isn't letting it happen, but you're still engaging the back of your leg by doing that. Raise your heart away from the floor and squeeze your bottom. If this front knee is slightly bent, that's fine. Now go back to hands and knees. So just move your hands so that you can bring that right leg back, and then do the same thing on the other side. So the left leg comes forward, fingertips on the floor, raise your heart away from the floor and dig that trench. Keep pressing that left heel down and back towards your right knee, and then squeeze your bottom. And again, if you can do the windscreen wiper, if you've got a little bit more length in your hamstrings and the back of the calf muscle, feel free to come forwards, but again, don't be overly ambitious here. And keep squeezing the quadricep muscles, the thigh muscles. Couple more breaths. And then come into downward facing dog. So you move your left hand around so you've got space for the leg to move back. Place your hands, come into Adho Mukha Shavasana, downward facing dog. Now walk your feet forward. Ardha Uttanasana, raise your chest. Exhale, fold to Uttanasana. Bend your knees, come up to standing. Bring your hands together, down to your heart. Bring your hands onto your hips. Now I'm going to face you, but you stay so that you can see me. You don't need to change your orientation. We're going to come back to standing figure 4. So bend both of your knees again. Pick up your right leg and really press the shin down into the top of that left thigh. Now, please feel free to stay like this, especially if you're worried about this right knee, if you've had any injuries or you're a little tighter. Or you can start to move your chest down towards that shin and possibly bring your elbows onto the shin. So your option here is to stay high with your hands on your hips or bring your elbows onto the shin. Whatever you're doing, have a look at the sole of this right foot and make sure it's really facing that side of the room. It's not facing up towards your face. So the inner ankle is long and it's not wrinkled. Squeeze your bottom both sides. If you've got your elbows on your shins, bring your hands onto your hips now and come all the way up. Take your foot away and bend both of the knees. So you're not just opening up your hips, you're doing some balance work here obviously as well. Left leg up. And then raise your chest. So if your balance is really off, go back to that wall and bring your hand onto the wall. And then maybe experiment with taking your hand off a little bit occasionally. Squeeze your bottom, stay like this, or again, maybe the elbows can come onto the shin. Be aware that this knee might be a little tighter than the other side, and this hip might be a little tighter, so even if you brought your elbows down on the other side, that might not be okay this side. Remember to be kind to your body, you don't want to get injured. Bring your navel into your spine so your abs stay strong, they support the pose. And then bring your hands onto your hips, push the floor away with your left foot, your right foot rather, and then bring your feet together. Good. Come back to downward facing dog. So place your hands on the floor, walk back. And bring your knees down to the floor. Sit onto your heels. And then sit down. We're going to do Eye of the Needle, Sukhi Randrasana. So bring your elbows down to the floor, keep your knees bent, bring your head down, and then the same pattern that you just did standing, you're now going to do here. So make a figure 4 with the right leg, pick the left leg up, interlace your hands behind the back of your left thigh. So you're going to need to thread your right hand sort of through the hole that you've made with the right leg. And gently draw your left knee towards your left shoulder. And as you do this, now that you don't have to worry about balance and strength, maybe you can open up the outside of that right hip a little bit more. So you can press your right elbow into the inner thigh, the right inner thigh if you want. This pose, by the way, is also really nicely done with the wall. So if you want, just look up for a moment. I don't want you to actually do this, but this is something nice that you can do at night. It's quite a nice restorative pose, and you can hold it for a long time. So I've got my left foot actually on the wall and arms down by my side. My husband does this often. It's a really nice pose that you can just hold. Really good if you're particularly tight and you find it difficult to reach with your arms around the back of that left thigh. Okay, come to the other side. So now the left leg is on the front of the right thigh. When you interlace your fingers behind the back of that right leg, change the dominance of the clasp to the awkward way. And then again, the elbow can press into the inner thigh, pushing the left knee away if you want. Try and keep that nice, clean, strongly engaged left ankle. And soften your shoulders. And if you want, that option is there to use the wall, but bear in mind we're not here for very long. Now, we're going to do that first side again, but slightly differently. So take your hands away, bring the right foot to the floor, and then the left. And then again, figure 4, eye of the needle, right leg out to the side, interlace your hands behind the back of your left leg, and then straighten the left leg, or bring it to straighter. And if your left leg is moving over to the left quite a lot, try and bring it up to vertical. Now change sides. Now the left leg, the knee is out to the side, making a figure 4. Interlace your fingers the other way, the non-dominant clasp, and bring that right leg to straighter and as vertical as you can. And bring the right toenails down towards your face. So you're getting a little stretch in the calf muscle, the Achilles tendon is being lengthened. And then slowly release. Bring both feet to the floor, roll over onto your right side, come up into a seated position, and come into seated figure 4. So, hands on the floor behind you, pick your bottom up, pick your right leg up again, and then slowly bring your bottom down to the floor. Raise your chest. I think in this one you can get an even more intense stretch. So you are having to use the strength of your upper body here and bring your shoulders back. But in this position, slightly different muscles are stretched on the outside of this right hip. And I think a little more deeply perhaps. You've got more control over here of making the depth a little more intense. Having said that, if it's too much, walk your left foot closer to me so that your right leg moves further away from your chest, and that decreases the intensity. Now coming to the other side, pick your bottom up, keep it up, bring the right leg down, pick up the left leg. Slowly bend your elbows, descend your bottom. And again, if your legs are closer to your chest, you're getting a deeper stretch. If it's too much, walk that right foot further towards me so that you're decreasing the intensity. And keep this left foot engaged. Keep the ankle strong. Don't let the sole of the foot turn up towards your face. Now pick your bottom up. Dismantle the pose, bring the left foot down and go back to downward facing dog. So walk your legs back, lift up, press back. And then bring your knees to the floor again. We're going to stretch the backs of the legs more. Get your strap, put it beside your mat so that you can come into Supta Padangustasana, SPG. So keep the knees bent, and we're just going to do the first stage. Come all the way down, lengthen your legs down the mat, squeeze your legs together. So it's not Shavasana legs, it's Tadasana legs, standing mountain pose, lying down. Keep the left leg where it is. Pick up the right leg, unravel your strap, your belt, your tea towel, whatever it is that you're using, and use it as an arm extender as you put the strap underneath the sole of your right foot and squeeze this leg strong. So lengthening the backs of the legs, lengthening the glutes. Squeeze both legs really straight and strong. Now you're going to cross this right leg over to the left side of the room. So put both legs to the strap into your left hand, and then from here, pick your bottom up and move it a little bit over to the right. So you've got to press your hands down a bit, just the bottom, and then bring your right leg down towards the left. So it's crossing over your body, and bring the inner foot down to the floor. Bruno? I'm just telling my son, I think there's a delivery. Stay here for a couple more breaths. And rock your top hip away from your chest towards your bottom foot. Squeeze your legs straight and strong. A couple more breaths here. And then bring that right leg all the way up. Bend the knee if you need to. And bend the knee completely so that you can take the strap away, and we'll do those two poses on the other side. So squeeze your legs strong. So when I said we were going to do the first stage, that was a lie. Pick up the left leg. More of a me being forgetful than lying. Pick up that left leg. Straighten both of your legs straight and strong. Turn your right inner thigh down towards the floor, and stretch the back of your left leg as you squeeze the thigh strong. So the front of the leg is engaged as the back of the leg stretches. The front of the leg engaging so that it supports the stretch on the back of the leg. Now you're going to cross that leg over. So put both straps into your right hand and bring your left leg over to the right. And bring the inner foot down to the floor. Sorry, I didn't mention it on the other side. I hope you just did that anyway. So you're making a cross with your body. Stretch the cross long. So press your left hand more to the left. Press your left foot, which is now on the right side of your body, more over to the right. And roll your top hip away from your chest. So your left hip is moving towards the foot down at the bottom of your mat. Now come all the way up, bend the knee if you need to, and then take the strap away. Put the strap away, you don't need it, again, in this sequence. And hug your knees in towards your shoulders. Keep your eyes open here. We're not done with the strong work. And then please roll onto your right side and come up to standing. So from here, just come all the way up. Uttanasana first, hands onto your hips, come up and bring your feet together. So we're going to do that standing figure 4 pose again, but this time with the option to take it a little bit further. So from here, bring your feet together, bring your hands onto your hips, bend both of your knees. Pick up your right leg and turn it out to the side, making that figure 4. Stay here with your hands on your hips, or round down and bring your elbows onto your shins. Make sure that you are really strengthening and straightening your right ankle. Now please feel free to stay here, or move your elbows down more towards the floor as you squeeze your bottom. Please feel free to stay here, or if you know this pose and you feel like you've got a good amount of flexibility in your hip and your right knee, maybe bring your fingertips to the floor. If that's going well, perhaps come to the next stage of walking your hands a little further forward and flattening your hands onto your mat. If that's going well, then wrap the top of your foot around your upper left arm, around the tricep. And if that's going well, possibly raise your chin and that back foot might come off the floor. I think we'll leave it there. That's enough of possibilities. Bring the back foot down and then reverse the entire process slowly. So if you were in this pose, fingertips on the floor, hands on the hips, bring your feet together, come all the way up. Second side, bring your feet together, bring your hands onto your hips, pick the left leg up, make a standing figure 4. Those of you that are just staying here in standing figure 4 and you're not bringing your hand to the floor, feel free to put your hand on the wall. It gets a bit boring and it's a long hold, but do it anyway. So you're really putting some length into the stretch. So option to stay here with your hands on your hips or one hand on the wall. Maybe come down a bit more with your chest, bring your navel into your spine so your abs engage. Elbows, option, onto the shin, Option to slide your elbows further towards the floor. Stay like this, or possibly fingertips on the floor. If the floor feels like a million miles away, don't try and bring your fingertips to the floor. You're not quite ready yet. Maybe flatten your hands. Wrap your toes around the upper right arm, and then possibly bring that back foot off the floor. Keep breathing, whatever you're doing, and then come all the way down. Reverse the process. Walk your hands back to your foot. Bring your hands to your hips. Come all the way up. Place your foot. Downward facing dog. Place your hands at the front of the mat. Whatever you did, well done. So that's enough of that action of opening up the outside of the hip, that figure four shape. We're going to move on, and then we're soon ready for Shavasana. So from here, bring your feet together. Raise your right leg behind you. Step your right foot forward in between your hands, and bring your back knee down. From here, bring both of your hands onto your right thigh and push your chest up. So now you're stretching the back thigh as you possibly bend that right knee a little bit more. Stay here. Move the right ribs forward, the left ribs back, so you're squaring your chest. And just keep your hands low. You've already put a lot of effort into Eka Pada Galavasana, so here we're just stretching the back leg. Keep a little strength. Do keep moving your front foot to the back knee. And then come back to down dog. So look down, place your hands, pick up the back knee, step back. Raise your left leg, three-legged dog. And then step your foot in between your hands. Use your left hand to move that left foot forward if it's stubborn. Bring the back knee down. And again, both hands on the front thigh. Change the dominance of that, so put the other hand on top. And as you press your hands into your thigh, raise your heart. And let that back thigh and the hip flexor stretch. Let them open. So by pushing your front foot down and back, you're doing some nice stability work in the front leg in order to relatively safely stretch the front of that back leg. Keep your hands low. And then go back into downward facing dog. Place your hands. We're just going to do one more pose where we're sort of relatively upright. And then you're going to come down into a lying down twist. And a couple more poses before Shavasana. Bring your feet together. Raise your right leg, three-legged dog. Step your foot in between your hands. Bring your back knee down. Keep your hands on the floor. Now, as we did before, we're going to straighten this front leg. But before we do, bring your back knee and your back foot back a little bit more, about 5 centimeters back. Then walk your hands back as you straighten the front leg. Raise your heart. And again, the windscreen wiper thing is there for you if you've got a little bit more length in the back of that right leg. Dig the trench. Some of you might be able to lengthen this pose out a little bit more. So if you can bring that back knee back a bit more and that front knee forward, front foot forward a bit more, please do, but in increments. So do a little bit of lengthening and distancing of the back knee and the front foot, but then press that front foot towards the back knee, digging the trench, and squeeze your bottom and keep moving that back knee and the left hip forwards. You might be able to find that you can go down a little bit more, possibly coming a little bit more into Hanumanasana, but keep strong. And please don't go full pell. I feel a little nervous about teaching you this pose, not being in class with you and being able to see what you're doing. So don't, even if you can come into the full pose, don't today. Just be a little bit more conservative. It's a little bit risky as our ego starts to take over in this pose and we want to do the splits now, like maybe we used to be able to do when we were 8. But we're not 8 now. And you don't want to have to go to hospital. I'm being a bit dramatic, but just take care. Okay, let's go back to downward facing dog. Bring your hands to the left side of the mat. Bring your right leg around. Adho Mukha Svanasana. Notice how the left and the right legs probably feel quite different now. Bring your feet together. Raise your left leg. And then step your foot in between your hands, bring your back knee down, and again, playing with the length cautiously. Move the back knee back a little bit, walk your hands back, straighten your front leg, moving your toenails towards your chest, and raise your chest. And then possibly playing around with moving that front heel forward, but then pausing as you engage. Press the right hip forward, dig the trench back with your left heel. Squeeze your left leg strong. If you feel you could deepen the stretch, then possibly take it a little bit further, but then pause again to get the alignment, to get the strength. Little bit by little bit, pausing, considering, assessing before proceeding. And then go into downward facing dog. So bring the left hand inside, scoop around and back, and go into downward facing dog. Lift up and press back. Now bring your knees to the floor, sit onto your heels, and come into Supta Baddha Konasana. So bring your bottom to the floor, soles of the feet together, knees drop out to the side. Bring your elbows down, come all the way down. Stay here. Bring your arms down by your sides, or like we did in a previous class, grab your elbows and frame your head, letting your forearms drop to the floor. Only do this if it doesn't create tension in your shoulders and upper back. If it does, then come into cactus arms, so that your elbows are making 90-degree angles and the backs of your hands are on the floor. If that creates tension, then bring your arms down by your sides like you would do in Shavasana. If you've got your arms clasped, your elbows clasped overhead, change that clasp now so the other forearm is on top. And whatever you're doing, breathe deeply. Come back to that length of every inhalation, breathing into the base, the depths of your lungs. Let your rib cage become really pliant. Let the tissues in between each rib be soft, so that when you inhale, your lungs have a bigger house to breathe into. The front, the sides, and the backs of your rib cage. Now, if you've got your hands clasped, release that. And then everyone bring your knees together, roll over onto your side. I want you to now get your blanket or your towel. We're going to use it to open up the chest a little bit more. So fold it really nicely so it doesn't have any folds or wrinkles in it. Think of yourself as the princess and the pea. So really nice. And I'm rolling it like that. By the way, if you don't have a blanket and you do have a block, you can use the block like this, that way, for you to just bring your upper back over. So if you imagine the bottom tips of your shoulder blades, or where the bra strap line is, that's where you're going to place your upper back. Keep your knees bent throughout this, and come down and bring your arms down by your side, head on the floor. You're just elevating a little bit here, putting a little bit of a press up into your upper back. Now as you stay here like this, widen your feet to the edges of your mat, but bring your knees together. And I'm going to read you a poem. I want you to really try and relax, but if you find yourself almost falling asleep, open your eyes. Having said that, if you're really tired, let yourself go to sleep, it's fine. You could even think of this poem I'm going to read as a lullaby. So, and listen to this poem to the extent that your focus allows you. It's called Eagle Poem, and it's by Joy Harjo. To pray, you open your whole self to sky, to earth, to sun, to moon, to one whole voice that is you, and know there is more that you can't see, can't hear, can't know except in moments steadily growing, and in languages that aren't always sound, but other circles of motion. Like the eagle that Sunday morning over Salt River, circled in blue sky, in wind, swept our hearts clean with sacred wings. We see you, see ourselves, and know that we must take the utmost care and kindness in all things. Breathe in, knowing we are made of all this, and breathe knowing we are truly blessed because we were born and die soon within a true circle of motion, like the eagle rounding out the morning inside us. We pray that it will be done in beauty, in beauty. Now to come into Shavasana, roll over onto one side, just enough that you can take the blanket or the towel away, or the block, and then bring it a little bit further behind you so that you can now use it as a pillow in Shavasana. Don't use the block as a pillow though. And a really nice thing to do is to push the blanket or the towel around your neck so that you feel a little bit hugged. And kind of concertina the mat around your neck and around the tops of your shoulders. Then lengthen your legs long down the mat one by one. Bring your arms down by your sides. Make sure your fingers are curled. If your fingers are straight, then you're engaging muscles in your hands. So just relax. Tuck your shoulders under each other and do close your eyes. And again, if you feel yourself falling asleep, it's not ideal, but it's fine. Let yourself go. Feel the weight of your body being held by the earth and relax. Now I'm going to come out of Shavasana in about 20 seconds or so. You stay as long as you want and enjoy. Hi everybody, I hope you enjoyed that class. Please remember to leave any comments below, to click on the thumbs up sign and to subscribe, and I hope to see you again very soon. Take care. Namaste.